Okay, so welcome everybody. My name is Katie and I am the program coordinator for our University Studies program and the Community-Based Bachelor of Education Partnership program. And so I'm going to kind of give you the big spiel today on why you should become a teacher, why I think you should become a teacher, what you can do with this degree, um, how to do it, how the whole process works, and all that kind of stuff. So if you have other questions as we move through, you can use a little raise hand icon at the bottom, or you can just interrupt me. I'm fine with either.
Mhm.
Okay, so alrighty. So why choose a career in education? So as some background, personally, I myself am a teacher. I've been a teacher since 2005, and I have, with my degree, my Bachelor of Education, I have taught in England and in Taiwan and online while I lived in Costa Rica. I have taught K to ages K to 65 plus, so a variety of ages. And then I've worked in a public schools. I've worked for a private school. I've worked for an adult learning center and for the government, and now for a community college. So it is a hugely flexible degree, and it has allowed me to travel and see the world. So it's a pretty great gig. And it also doesn't pay too badly and has some pretty good options for getting a job. So just as a snapshot here, this is kind of what secondary school looks like in Alberta, or so being a high school teacher, you need your 4-year post-secondary, and the average wage is about $50 an hour, and your average salary is about 79,000. And that will increase, of course, as collective bargaining continues throughout the province. So when you start out, you start at approximately $36 an hour up to approximately $65 an hour. And that's assuming that you don't take any extra education or get additional responsibilities within your school. Um, yeah, so working conditions, we all know that teachers work August to July with approximately 6 weeks off during the summer. And then you have like your spring break and your Christmas and things like that. As a teacher, I will say that, people think you get a ton of time off, but particularly in your first couple of years, you will notice that you're going to have quite a bit of marking and planning and extracurricular stuff that's going on. So as you move into your career, you can be often more busy or less busy in those times when you could have some time off. It is physically and emotionally demanding, but it's fantastic. There's nothing quite like watching one of the people that you taught walk across their stage and convocate, or seeing your students out in the wild, you might say. I remember I had a student who stopped me once, just at a store, and he was like, "You know what? It's because of you that I pay attention to what's happening in the world." And I was like, "Okay." That's pretty motivating. So, like, there's some really great stuff, even though it can be kind of hard. And as I mentioned, some of the things that I've done, there's a ton of different options for you as a teacher. So you could be in public or private. You could even potentially work like in a hospital, vocational setting. Some of our faculty at Northern Lakes have worked in corrections, so keeping within the prison system, working overseas, becoming a specialist, working for the government. There's a variety of different options. So don't think it's necessarily just going to be limited to the classroom, although the classroom is a great place to be. Elementary is pays just a little bit less. My personal guess around that is that it is a little bit more skewed to having women in the classroom. Women take typically more leave for their families, which moves them down on the grid just a little bit higher in terms of accumulating that seniority. So, because on the salary grid, you are paid the same. Okay. And then again, another little snapshot here and places where you could work with an elementary degree. So, starting your degree with us, this is kind of the nitty gritty, what most folks are here for. So, I will explain how this whole program works. Now, Um, what the program typically is 2 years at Northern Lakes and then 2 years at the University of Calgary. And the word attend, I don't want to say it's misleading, but you do need to know that you don't actually have to physically go to the University of Calgary or to Northern Lakes, with one exception. Once you are admitted to the University of Calgary, you do have to go to the University of Calgary for 2 weeks in the summer, for 3 summers in a row, and attend their summer institute. It's usually the second 2 weeks in July, the second and third week in July. And that's the only attendance requirement that's physically on campus. Then you also have to be able to do your practicum placements. So they have 4 practicum placements, a 2-week, a 4-week, a 6-week, and an 8-week. But other than that, there's a huge amount of flexibility in the program. Some students will do those 2 years with us part-time and take 4 years or 3 years. Some students want to get it all done. They'll do 2 years and 2 years. So there's a variety of options in how those terms work. Just know that when you're at the U of C, you do have to be able to attend as a full-time status. So it's a bit more challenging, not impossible, to hold a second job when you're in that piece, because you do have to make space for those practicum components. So yeah, 2 years with us, 2 years with the U of C, for a total of 120 credits for your undergraduate degree. What was I also going to say there? You have to be able to meet the English requirement to gain entry to university studies. So our English requirement is a 60% in English 30-1 or 70% in English 30-2 or the equivalent on what's called an AccuPlacer exam. So it's just like a placement tool that we use. Or if you have already an English class from another post-secondary institution, we may be able to utilize that. So that's the admission to us. University of Calgary has a couple of additional admission requirements to their Bachelor of Education program if you want to specialize in something in one of their teachables that needs that. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about that as well. So the teachables, and I will get into this in more detail on the other page. The teachables there are 6 of them, and so this program differs a little bit from what you may have heard from, say, like a more conventional on-campus program. So what that means is, typically when you hear someone's going to, say, the University of Alberta or U of C, and they're going to go to the campus, they will either focus on elementary or secondary. That's kind of the distinction that the on-campus programs make. So for example, I am a high school teacher, so I am certified to teach 7 to 12, and I have a social studies major and a phys ed minor. In this program, because of the nature of the community-based aspect and the fact that the students in this program are based in rural communities, I'm sure many of us know that there are shortages of teachers in those rural communities, and so the program is considered K to 12. So that means that your degree is actually K to 12 within one of the 6 subject areas that we offer, the U of C offers. So the six subject areas are English, social studies, and revitalization of Indigenous languages. And for those 3 choices, that English requirement is the same, and there are additional requirements, but I can help you fill those with us at Northern Lakes. If you choose one of the other 3, which is math, science, or early childhood, which would be like the K to 3 specialization, then you do have to have a math or sometimes a math and a science at the grade 12 level, so the 30 level, 30-1 or 30-2. So there are different requirements there that you will need to look into when you are if you decide that you wanted to do that. And I can help you with that. You send me transcripts and we can have a conversation about that. So that's the admission. And again, that there are these different requirements depending on the stream or the teachable that you choose. So the structure of the program, once you are with us, is that you have 19 different classes that you take with Northern Lakes. So the first 6 of those are considered foundational courses. So you have to take a Canadian Studies, an English, a health or physical education, a math or science, a psychology, and a fine arts, which is our drama class. So everybody, regardless of what they want to teach, they take those 6 classes. Then you also have what are called your teachables. You'll hear me use that word a lot when you're in the program. And your teachables are essentially like your major. So here I've given some examples from our 3 streams that don't require more than English to get into at the outset. So we have English, Social, and Revitalization. So you might take Women in Literature, Survey of Indigenous Canadian Literature, Survey of Literature for Younger Children, Pathology of the Bestseller. So there's a variety of different courses that you take within these streams. And then you have 5 electives. And the electives can be really anything that's within university studies that you find interesting or you think might benefit you once you're in the classroom. I'm just going to pause. I've been talking for almost 15 minutes straight. Does anybody have any questions right now before I move on to the next slide? Okay. So the next slide here is how the program is kind of like a summary of the program here that I've touched on a bit of it already. So here's this is a 4-year degree, and it is unique in Alberta because it is ideal for folks in rural and remote communities. So the interesting part about this is it's actually one of the things, the criteria for admission. So people who are in rural and remote areas in Alberta get first priority. And then we actually have some partners, partner communities along the BC border that are also considered rural and remote, and they get second consideration. And then you'd move into the 3rd tier of the, sorry, my dog's got his chew toy out. Maybe not right now, buddy. So the people who are in kind of less rural or remote areas would have kind of like that 3rd placement in the priority ranking. And then it is the blended learning for maximum flexibility. So what that means is that at the University of Calgary and also at Northern Lakes, there are optional or there are live sessions. For the Northern Lakes program, we don't require attendance. We encourage it because we think it's a great way to interact with your instructors, but it's not required. So you can say you have 4 classes a week, but you're also working. You can get home from work and watch the recordings of your class after the classes have been given that day. And then you can do your assignments and stuff kind of at your own pace as long as you meet the deadlines on the course outline. So again, there's no like live attendance, there's no physical attendance for Northern Lakes. Once you're at the University of Calgary, they do have some live sessions in their courses, but they're typically delivered at around 4 o'clock, 4:30, so it's better for folks who are working. And there's only 4 or 5 of them per term per class, so fewer live attendance requirements on those ones. And then, of course, the Summer Institute that allows you to connect and meet your peers and learn, have that in-person learning. And it's right here in Calgary at the U of C. There's a whole bunch of information on their website about the summer residency if you're curious. Includes some information on accommodations and things like that. And so it is allowed to, or designed specifically for those folks in rural areas and also typically students who are already working and participating in kind of like, you know, family responsibilities, things like that. So that's the majority of our students that we have in the program. Is you'll see a lot of folks have, you know, they've got kids, they've got jobs, they've got partners, they've got community responsibilities. And so they're kind of having all these moving parts, but still being very successful because of the design of the program. Okay, this tuition estimate is incorrect. I did not have a chance to edit it, so this should say 509, 953, 1462, and 1462 and 1906. So tuition's gone up just slightly, but it's really quite affordable in terms of the cost. I believe it's approximately, so for the 4 semesters, or sorry, the 2 years that you would take with us, you're typically looking at about $5,000 a year for your tuition, then your books. So it's about $10,000 for the time with us, and then another approximately 20,000 for the University of Calgary. So all told, you're right around $35,000 for your degree. There are some awesome bursaries that are available for a lot of folks who live in Northern Alberta through the Northern Alberta Development Commission, so NADC. And there's also a variety of awards and different fundings that you can get from like your communities or from scholarships. So even though that sounds like maybe it's quite a bit of money, with some of those bursaries and things like that, it can end up giving you a little bit back in your pocket. And so these are some quotes from students who have successfully completed the NLC component of their program and are going to be graduating from Workland in I think they graduate next year. So some of their feedback has been that it's great because it helps you to be able to complete your degree even though you don't have access to like a bricks and mortar institution. And of course, the support from the staff and faculty at NLC. So that is one of the things that I hear most often from our students is just how awesome our faculty are, which is really great to hear on my end of things. So yeah, students tend to really enjoy the supported delivery model that we offer, and then the faculty themselves. So if you want to know more, this is my email address and the way to contact me. And again, my name is, well, it's Catherine, but I go by Katie. Or you can look at our website here with these links. The University of Calgary is also great to talk to about this. Their email is upe@ucalgary.ca. So they're great folks to reach out and connect with if you have additional questions for them, or if you have additional questions for me. I'm always more than happy to chat Bachelor of Education.